everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Integrative You Radio. So, essentially, we are kind of diving into almost a part four of our series where we were talking a lot about one of our recent experiences with my mom having a stroke, ending up in hospital, then ending up in a rehab. And we feel like one of the important aspects that we want to bring to you is some of the more unconventional treatments that we have been administering, I guess you can say, with her or facilitating with her that have been a huge catalyst to her healing. And listen, we have a long road ahead of us, but we've seen some significant changes in a short amount of time with more of a unconventional and integrative approach. I will lead with saying I feel extremely disappointed in what quote unquote rehab looks like for these stroke patients because everyone has a different tolerance. I understand that. Some you have to start slow, but these were
for the
rehab.
data for the data that's out there to really support and challenge the nervous system, which is
Yeah.
incredible at healing. It I wasn't surprised, but I guess I was of how shitty the uh
Well, I
the
think
therapy that
that
was.
it wasn't there was no neurological approach to the rehab. This wasn't about actually rehabbing the brain and stimulating, proprioception. Like this was not about that. This was about getting her up out of a chair and seeing how long she can stand. Do you hear her? Our
A little
daughter.
bit. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Our daughter is 3 months old and she doesn't cry. She just yells at you when she wants you. So
I have no idea where she got that trait.
yeah. So anyway, um, so I think that this is a really important factor for people to understand, and I say this to provide a level of hope and inspiration for others because this isn't necessarily just about, let's see if we can strengthen the muscles or let's avoid, muscle atrophy, which is a breakdown of the muscle. Let's see, how long a person can stand. This is about rehabilitating the brain's connection to the body's connection to the brain. And if you
And
take
I just want to
more,
interject really
yeah,
quick. That what you said right there is getting the brain to connect back to the body. That's the foundation, honestly, of every disease
well, yes,
because all the information we go if you haven't listened to much of our podcast, we go hard on the mental emotional because it's the mind that goes first and gets processed by the brain, and then the brain literally dictates the control
expression
of the
of
rest
the
of the
organs.
body.
Mhm. And what's
So
cool is that was proven by the gentleman who created New Germanic medicine. He was able to look at someone's brain scan, never talk to them, not know anything about them, and he would know based off of the brain scan what was the conflict that they experienced. You can call the conflict trauma if you would like. And he would then be able to tell you the organs that were diseased or stressed based off of the brain and the conflict endured or experienced, I should say.
yeah, which is just amazing. So I guess I've said that to listen to this, we're going to be talking mainly about stroke because that's what we just experienced with your mom and talking about that process. But this is every dysfunction in the body. I want to say disease because, even if somebody's healthy, you can always up level the function of the brain to better connect with the body. That's why if you listen to our last podcast, that's why I look so weird exercising out back, is that I'm constantly working on increasing that connection of the brain body energy, chakras, layers of your aura. That get really freaking weird. So,
But it's but it's also too, what we essentially experienced is she had a stroke. It was hemorrhagic, so there was a bleed in the brain. This was affecting primarily the right side of the brain, which affected the motor function of the left side of her body. Left arm and left leg were completely immobile, not functioning at all. No neurological connection. One thing that I want to add here is that obviously when she was admitted to the hospital, there was a CT scan done. We needed to figure out, was it hemorrhagic? Was there a bleed in the brain? And then where was it? Because that is significant, because depending on where it affects the brain, it would dictate if it was completely loss of motor function, if this was going to affect her memory, if this was going to affect her personality, so on and so forth. And for her specifically, she ended up having a the bleeding affected her right side of her brain, the right hemisphere, but it also affected a part of the brain called the thalamus. When you get into the world of new germanic medicine and you look at the representation of the thalamus being a relay center between the limbic center, which is your emotional center, and the mental processing of those emotions, essentially when someone has a stroke affecting the thalamus, the conflict that it's associated with is when you give up. You give up on life and you don't care if you live or die. And the irony of that is when I was explaining this to my dad, primarily because in the very early stages, my mom was not really very functional within the first week of this experience, and I was explaining this to my dad, and I was like, is there anything that I should know? And he's like, she has been talking like this, that she has given up. She doesn't care if she lives. She doesn't care if she's dead. She doesn't want to live this life anymore, etc. So it is very interesting because, your words are very powerful. Your thoughts are very powerful. And, I think people don't realize that, if you truly feel like I'm fucking done with this life, how that can manifest physically in the body. And, seeing this one, seeing not this specific situation, but seeing these different patterns over the 15 years that we've been working clinically, but then, seeing this direct correlation with her as well. And and I think another thing that people don't realize with a stroke, like this is cardiovascular disease. Like this is cardiovascular disease that reached a tipping point that the body couldn't it just couldn't take anymore. And it then creates this manifestation of a stroke. And so, this is one of the reasons why the automatic thing they did in the hospital is check her blood pressure, put her on blood pressure medication, put her prophylactically on blood thinners, because it's a cardiovascular situation. It's a cardiovascular manifestation when the body just reaches that threshold that it it can't take anymore. And so really what it comes down to for her, that this is not just about helping her create that mind body connection and repair the neurological connection, but this is also about helping from the cardiovascular perspective. And so these are two factors that we're not necessarily being treated in the hospital setting. Like I said, it was medication. Let's make sure that we control the blood pressure so we don't have another stroke. But there was no long-term solutions as to, what can we be doing to decrease the inflammation in the body to help get the blood pressure to a place that it can be regulated without medication. That's not necessarily the way they're looking at it. They're just looking at it of, how do we make sure this person doesn't have another stroke? stay on pressure medication for the rest of your life, and stay on blood thinners for the rest of your life. Don't get me wrong, there was a variety of other medications that were recommended, but because we were helping with the case management, we denied a large portion of those medications because they weren't necessary. Some of the medications were even contraindicated to stroke. Um, and that's kind of that's one of the topics that we talked about a lot in our previous podcast. If you want to listen in on how to really navigate hospital emergency room type settings, you need to listen to part two, which is all about being your either your own advocate or needing an advocate when you're in a hospital setting, knowing what to ask, knowing what your options are, um, because things can go real bad if you don't have that knowledge or the confidence to ask better questions.
So let's bring some light into this and start chatting a little bit about some of the things people can do at home.
Hmm. Yeah.
And some of them will be easy, some of them will probably, you know, you can do for free, and some of them will be with some devices like,
Hmm.
red lights, etc., PMF devices. I think, getting down to the foundation of it, the thing that I was most disappointed in is that functional neurology part. You know, that they were just having her like, all right, stand up, try to take a step, stand up, stand as long as you can, sit down, take a break, do that again. Um, Not that that's bad, but it's just pretty shitty when that's your rehab process.
Before
And
we
there's
talk
such
about the rehab, I would love to just set the foundation though about the cardiovascular part, and I say this primarily because you and I both know that if the inflammation stays high, which high blood pressure is essentially an inflammatory condition, you're also going to have lack of oxygenation to the neurological system, and you're going to have inflammation in the brain and the nerves. So that's going to make your neurological rehabilitation more difficult. And so a lot of people don't know this, but garlic is actually one of the most potent blood thinners out there. So this is, you could consume raw garlic. You can also take garlic supplements. But this is definitely something that you have to control. Everyone is definitely going to look different, but the moral of the story is you have to decrease inflammation in the body. So if that's taking out sugar, processed foods, inflammatory foods, and trying to get this person, especially with a stroke patient, they might have paralysis on part of their face, getting them to drink like a nutrient dense smoothie and have them on that, drinking it out of a straw for a period of time and having them mainly that be their primary form of food, or making them a soup that's all whole foods based, and so that you can take the foods out that are causing inflammation. You can also leverage like high doses of omega 3s, not from Costco, please guys, Jesus, quality omega 3s in order to decrease inflammation, taking a high potency allicin, it's ALLICIN, which is a garlic supplement. These are things that you can do. I always recommend getting
this
testing, working with a doctor, etc.
spirulina, chlorella, spirulina for
Chlorella,
cellular energy,
spirulina, these are all
chlorella
things
for
that can help
binders.
with the inflammation. But of course, you can take these different supplements, but if you're fucking eating like shit, eating hospital food, you're going to have a push and pull situation. One of the things that we use regularly, which this is kind of a great device because you can use it for inflammation. You can also use it for the neurological rehab, which we're going to talk about, is the AMP coil, which is a PEMF device. And the AMP coil, one of their new programs is inflammatory based. What is it called? Inflammacare?
I don't recall. I can look it up.
Yeah. But it's a specific program to decrease inflammation in the body. And so fortunately my parents have an AMP coil, so we've had them using that. But even too, Inflammacare is actually the name of a supplement. So there, even if you're like, I don't know what half their shit is, you can go on a platform like Full Scripts, which is a supplement dispensary, and you could even talk to one of the practitioners at Full Scripts, and you could just say, I need something for inflammation. There are all these different supplement complexes, aka there's a bunch of different herbs ingredients in them that are for inflammation, boswellia, things like that. So essentially, you have to deal with that first. You have to get the inflammation down, and then you're going to see a lot more. I don't want to say more success with the neurological rehab. You're definitely going to see more success, but you're going to see it happen more easily and quicker.
Much success.
More success. Yeah.
And that's a transition also, working on the body because the body has so much dysfunction, going in that reverse aspect of working on the biochemistry, um, into the neurology is breath work. You know, you the thing is with neural rehab is you want to be able to do as much as possible without overly stressing the system because you don't want to break the system down, even more, which is kind of the downside of, stand up. Like that's a lot of stress, a lot of energy. They're only going to be able to do that for so long, which doesn't give them a good duration to be able to reprogram and kind of reboot the nervous system. So breathing is actually a simple thing that affects your nervous system, affects whether your nervous system is parasympathetic or sympathetic. So you can do, even throughout the day, just kind of focus on getting that fight or flight back into a parasympathetic rest and digest to be able to heal, which, the easiest one is just belly breathing. And another easy one is making sure, like, anytime that we are stressed or in an event that's stressed, our breathing will change. And the ratio from inhale to exhale is going to be imbalanced. So another easy one is just called box breathing, where, you breath in, let's say it's, 5 seconds, you hold for 5 seconds, breath out for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, and repeat that box.
Mhm.
That it's just 5 second
And we're
in.
not saying that this is easy for someone who just endured a stroke, but something is better than nothing. Because an example is we're talking about an amp coil. An amp coil is about $8,000. So not everyone's going out and buying an amp coil in order to help regulate the nervous system. So we're trying to help you understand that you can also do things that are completely free, which are, go on YouTube, look up how to do box breathing, belly breathing, and that is something that you can help a person do that will help regulate their nervous system as well.
And another very simple, low cost thing, almost free, is smell. So your right nostril is connected to the right cortex, left nostril is connected to the left cortex. An easy way to stimulate that right cortex is to block your left nostril so you can't smell through it and get like an essential oil. If that's too expensive, grab an orange, cut it, smell it. And the exercise is to create a challenge. So you want to start with it as very close up to in this case, the right nostril, the left nostril block, so you can only smell, hence you're activating the sensory receptors in that right cortex. And then you want to see how far away you can actually take that oil or that orange and still smell it. So you're challenging the smell receptors by making it more difficult to smell.
Mhm.
And then you want to go out as far as you can, take a break. That's one set. And then do it again. And the challenge is to get farther and farther and farther
Right.
away each time you do it. Hence, you're strengthening that right cortex.
Hmm.
They're not moving. It's not that much energy. It's something you can do more often throughout the day and not burn your nervous system out. So you're reprogramming it. You're going to get results quicker
Hmm.
because you're exercising more.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, it seems like common sense to me, which is why I was actually kind of pissed off of, the rehab that she's receiving. But there's just so many things. Like, you talked about it a little bit last time, is like almost every athlete now, even high school athletes, are being taught to visualize. Initially it was study done by the Russians and the Olympic teams. And now it's understanding like you can get better results through visualizing what you want to do.
Yeah.
So she can lay in bed and visualize
Her leg moving, her arm
her
moving,
leg
her
moving.
walking.
And what's even crazier about that is it's not exactly what you do, is how you do it's more important. So yeah, you can visualize moving, but it's also part of functional neurology is knowing that you can activate more parts of the brain with the smaller joints that are being activated. So the smaller the joint, the more the proprioception, the more body awareness, the more activation to the brain.
Yeah.
So she could just picture each toe moving individually.
Hmm.
And that's just visualization. And just go like, oh, there's my pinky toe, doing figure eights, doing going through the alphabet, go to the next toe. And then she can actually do that physically. Let's
Hmm.
try just to move my pinky toe. That's
And that's kind
actually
of exactly what ended up happening is
well,
that
and
she
that's
moved her
that's
toes
actually
first.
the the toes and the hand, the fingers, that's actually the foundation of what's called Feldenkrais, which is a technique um, to reconnect the brain, the body, and it's all done through the science of moving these small joints as
Hmm.
small, specific motions because it activates the largest, more parts of the brain.
Well,
And
before she
that,
even started doing the mobiliz or the visualization to the mobilization of the feet hand, is we also were having my dad put the flex beam infrared red light on the palm of the hand and the foot, specifically on the left side, in order to create, a neurological influx from the proprioceptors from the hand up to the brain. So we were trying to do, when she was especially within the first week when she was really incapacitated and, you know, uh, trying to have her brain just calm down from having a bleed, we're like, what are some of the easiest things that we can do to help in this neurological recovery? And that's was one of the things that we did was the red light therapy. And if you have a different type of unit, the I'm forgetting the name of the
I mean,
one that a
any
lot of
red
people
light's
have.
going to be great, like, but there's there's the active activation and there's passive activation.
Mhm.
So you can have her laying there and you can have somebody wiggling each toe.
Yes.
You can have somebody moving the ankle in figure eights and ABCs. You can have somebody moving the entire hip and the leg while tapping that right cortex
Hmm.
to get everything saying, hey, yo, wake up here. Oh, I'm moving over here. Let's connect it. Like, there's so many free, simple things out there that one can do to create the activation.
Hmm.
It's just insane. This is just for a stroke. Like, there's
Hmm.
things you can do for the vagus nerve to activate the
But
gut
even
brain.
I think
There's
one of the things we had to do was the headphones. If you want to mention that about the, particular types of music that benefit hemisphere to hemisphere.
yeah, it's I mean, the left brain likes to party. So everything you listen to your right ear actually goes and activates the left brain. So when you listen and you want to activate left, you want to listen to like hip hop, pop music,
Dance
um,
music.
dance music, and that's only going to be through the right ear, and that will activate left brain. If you want to activate the right, that's going to be like your classical music, Mozart, Bach, etc. And you're listening to that in the left ear because everything you listen in the left ear goes to activate your right cortex. So it's mind blowing how much one can do that's free. I mean, you don't have to spend money for an amp coil and a red light and all these things, and you'll still get amazing results. And this is for stroke, but anytime there's an issue in the body, there's a fight between the left brain and right brain, you
Hmm.
know? So balancing the brain out is needed in every disease, in every issue, because there's a polarization of the mind. There's a split of the mind. Hence the brain becomes split. The brain becomes imbalanced. And depending on, what that imbalance is, it's going to show up in different diseases. This one showed up in the form of a stroke.
Yeah. No, 100%. Of course, the if you are leveraging some of these techniques like the breathing and the stimulation of smell, which is stimulation of the cranial nerves. You're using sound and music for hemisphere stimulation. And you feel like you get stuck, don't be disappointed with it because there are obviously more powerful tools out there, like, some of the ones that we've mentioned. But essentially, there's we don't have to look at it from the perspective, especially when a stroke just happens, is like we have to just leave everything in the hands of conventional medicine because this is a crisis and there's nothing we can do. That's not true. The sooner that you start to stimulate that part of the brain and also help with the inflammation, the better the outcomes will be. So, when everything happened, we primarily were working with my dad and said, we need to get the flex beam red light in there, and we need you to be mobilizing the side of the body that is, having motor dysfunction. And that was, one, we don't want any blood clots to form, and then two is the more that you move it, the more stimulation you're going to have to that, cortex that was damaged from the actual bleed. And so, what's amazing is that later we finally got her to start some things that are more in the supplement arena. She dropped her inflammation because she actually didn't want to eat, and everyone was panicking about it. And I just was like, she's going to be okay. Like, if she doesn't want to eat, just let it be. There is a thing called fasting. People have successfully fasted for a week or even longer and didn't die. She's going to be okay. uh, so, there was some level of fasting, not like intentionally, that was happening that helped with the inflammation. And then from there, when we finally got her to be compliant, because she was definitely being a bit difficult, and we could attribute that to her being her, we could attribute that to the some damage from the stroke. We don't really know, but we had her taking a very, very high potency omega. That was the first thing that she was willing to do. And then we started to administer a smoothie that was filled with all different things to help neurological recovery, from different types of magnesium. We had things helping the gut because of the gut brain access. So, fiber, different greens, and it was a whole slew of different things. So essentially, it was giving her some nutrients that are going to help with her recovery, decrease that inflammation. And then we started to see a change. We started to see more mobility in the left side. Then we started to use the red light a little differently, using it more on the right hemisphere. And then we started to see even more. Then we started to see her being able to get up, move. And so essentially at this point in time, it's been about a month. She has mobility of the left leg. Is there, is it strong? Is there endurance that she can walk yet? No. She can stand, she can move it, which is a huge win. The left arm is slowly trailing behind, but it's not as mobile as the leg. Has she lost weight? Is she cognitively improved? She looks less inflamed in her face, which means that the brain is less inflamed. So things are moving in the right direction. Now we're going to be really amplifying the rehabilitation. We're going to be doing a lot more, neurologically centered rehab, and increasing even some of our therapies using a brain entrainment device. So, again, this podcast is not for you guys to go and facilitate all of this on your own. Obviously, take advantage of some of the things that Dr. Nick described that are very simple and easy and free. But when you're getting into using these different modalities and these therapies, you really need to understand, one, the big picture for the person that's going through the rehab. Number two is, you if you want to get the best results, you need to use them in a very strategic way. Bye, Nick. And of course, you really want to have someone in your field, someone on your team that is a healthcare professional that knows how to do all of this properly. So we hope this was helpful. We hope this was really inspiring for you guys, because it's really a hard thing to watch a family member go through a stroke, go through something that you feel like, is this forever? Are they going to be debilitated forever? And this is all about helping you know that the body is very smart, very resilient, and anything is possible with the right integrative interventions.